You've been gone a long time. Where did you go?
Hey, welcome back. We've been on a very long hiatus because, you don't want to hear about it. But good to have you back at the Fortress of Solitude. And as promised, I'm going to hit Man of Steel. Now, man, this is a tough one because as big as a Superman fan as I am, I just really didn't dig this particular film. Well, I would like to give some backstory to it, so I will. This film came right after Superman Returns, and Hollywood has this usual, I'd call it a problem, but their usual attitude when a film doesn't do well or doesn't do as well as they would like it would, they run away from that film. The last Superman film that didn't do well, contrary to popular belief, is Superman 4. Now, Superman 4 was a Christopher Reeve film, and that film was bad. It was bad all the way through. Christopher Reeve didn't want to talk about it. It wasn't a good film. And so they've been running from that film since 1986. That was when the film came out. They've been running from it. That means they didn't want to do anything that was like the Christopher Reeve films. They didn't want the charm, the wit, the romance. They wanted to get away from all of that. They had such a big difficulty trying to do anything new with Superman. And they had other people, trying to do things like J.J. Abrams, Tim Burton, but it didn't work out. Kevin Smith tried something, and he has this internet video on now where he discusses his problems. It's very popular. What eventually went was Bryan Singer, and he decided, no, I'm not going to run away from it. I'm going to try to reinvigorate what happened in the Reeve films. Superman Returns came out, okay, and it was critically a success, and audiences liked it for reasons that we don't have enough time to go in today. You can check the Superman Returns video. It didn't happen in terms of a sequel. The internet vibe is, it didn't make money and they canned it. That's not true. You do a little bit of research and you can find out. You wiki it and you can find out. And a lot of the stuff that happened there just becomes this snowball mentality, a dog pile mentality. It's not necessarily the truth, but people tend to just eat it up. I mean, even in Ted, the film with the bear, even that film referenced Superman Returns as this really horrible film that it wasn't. Man of Steel runs away from Superman Returns. And it's understandable why. Even a lot of Superman fans never really felt that Superman was being portrayed in a manner that was deserving of him as was displayed in the comic books. And in the comic books, Superman is really this rough and tumble character. He fights, he wrecks shop, he handles himself. And that really wasn't shown in most of the Reeve films. Maybe Superman 2 to a certain extent. But a lot of the things that he was capable of on film, and in the comics rather, we just never really got to see displayed. So Man of Steel did do that. We did get to see a lot more of a robust, and maybe even for some people a more masculine Superman, but it ultimately fails because it doesn't stick to its own story. There's a lot of things going on in Man of Steel that are actually working pretty well. The whole thing with Krypton, that was fine. I don't think anybody can mess up Krypton. It's a lot of nitpicking when you go at it as well. I mean, they do some things that are questionable, but ultimately it works. It's probably the best Krypton that we've seen, and they did a good job with it. If they had translated that same type of care and quality throughout the film, I don't think they would have had so much of a problem. But the major thing that goes on in this film is that Superman is never his own man in this film. He is told what to do by three principal characters, and each time he does what they tell him to do. He never makes his own decision. The biggest thing about Superman is that he has this moral compass where he wants to help people. And we see that early on in the film where he goes and he saves the kids on the bus, and his father shuts him down. He's like, no, this can't happen. All right, he doesn't tell him to be careful like Jonathan did on Smallville. And Smallville was hella bad for a whole bunch of reasons, but they got that right. So if Smallville can get it right, you have to wonder why these guys couldn't. But they really wanted to play up that whole angst thing. But the fact that three major figures, three pivotal figures in his life are all going to tell him different things, and he's going to follow them on each and every single occasion. Jonathan tells him, no, you can't do these things. The next time we see him with Jonathan, there's this big hurricane coming, tornado, whichever one you like, and the tornado's going to suck him up. What does he do? He wants to save him. That is his moral compass. He wants to go out and save him because he can help. That's the American way. You help when you can help. What does Jonathan say? No, sorry, you need to stay there. Stay there. It's okay. It'll be all right. and totally messes up the guy's mind. He spends the next 19 years just wandering all over the place. Or was it 17? 17 years, was it 16? Oh, whatever. He just spends too much time wandering throughout the entire world with no focus until he just happens to luck upon the spaceship, that scout ship from Krypton, which was conveniently there. He gets there and he meets AI Jor-El, and Jor-El tells him, hey, you've got these powers and you're part of this history. And these guys can, come in, you can bring them into the sun and all this other sort of stuff. You can, help people. Next thing you know, he shows him a suit. Before you know it, Superman's in the suit and he's jumping up and down, destroying the landscape, trying to learn how to fly, which made absolutely no sense, but that's where he was at. So again, his direction isn't his own. Jor-El tells him, no, this is what you should be doing. He doesn't even wrestle with it. He doesn't even say, well, I don't know, because, my father died, and I kind of let him die, so what's the reason for me putting on this suit? How do I honor what my father was about? But, no. He just, in the suit, he's off, and he's off to the races, he's flying. There's no consistency with his character. All right? Superman follows whatever directions he's pretty much pointed in. The last person to point him in a direction is General Zod, and he points him in the worst direction possible when he tells him, and it's pretty funny. He says, this only ends one way, Cal, with one of us dead. That's 2 ways. 2. Anyway, he decides to engage him exactly as Zod wants to engage him, which is ridiculous. At no point does this guy say, no, okay, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make my own decision. Now, as much as they're running away from the Reeve films, this comes straight out of the Reeve films. If you remember at the end of Superman the movie, Lois Lane is dead. Superman's distraught over the whole thing. He heads up and we don't know exactly what he's going to do. And then we see this image of Jor-El telling him it is forbidden for you to interfere with human history. And then he hears in his mind this voice of his father. You're here for a reason. So right there we have that dueling narrative. You can't interfere, but you're here for a reason. And then he doesn't go with either one of his fathers. He makes his own decision as to what he's going to do. Okay? He makes his own decision as to what he's going to do. He's not this strange visitor from another planet solely. He's been raised as a human being. Okay? And it can't be forbidden for him to interfere with human history when he considers himself so much of a human being to begin with. And he is there for a reason. He merges that, makes a synthesis of it, and then he goes from there. We never get to see that sort of synthesis in Man of Steel. It just doesn't happen. The last thing that we really see him doing is mourning the fact that he killed Zod. And we don't know if he's mourning just that. He destroyed the birthing matrix on the ship, which is genocide when you actually think about it. But of course, nobody really wants to think about that because that's being too literal and nitpicking. He destroyed his entire people, or the chance for them to live again. Even in the comics, the Kandorians are still there. So for him being lost in the last sun, it's not really applicable. But here he just kills them all off. He didn't even think about it. What does it come to? Zod tells him, hey, hang on, man. If you do this, you're destroying the only chance that Krypton has. He waits for like, what, a nanosecond? Krypton had his chance and totally destroys it. I'm like, dude, think about it. If you had just negotiated at that point, you were in the driver's seat, even though Zod was at the time, but you were in the driver's seat. If you had told him, okay, you need to stand down, okay, or I'm going to destroy the ship, more than likely Zod would have complied. And the rest of the plan was still going. So the other guys would have ended up in the Phantom Zone. You might have even been able to get Zod in there as well. It would have been a clever use of mind over matter, showing us a little bit of brain power. Instead, no, we got more crash, boom, bang, and that was pretty much the end of it. That was a chance for him to make his own decision, okay? That was a chance for him to make a decision that actually implied some thought, but even that was taken from him, and that was taken pretty much by the writer and the director, who decided that he had to be on this path of just charging through everything like a bull with no brains. That's pretty much the draw to the drawback to Man of Steel. Superman is not just a guy who wears an S, okay? He's this guy with this great moral compass, but he's also good at it. He's not just some guy where you put him in there the first day and he's going to be Batman and he's going to miss the ledge and almost, fall to his death. One of the reasons why he's Superman, that super is superlative. He's excellent at what he does. Not perfect, but excellent. Okay, and he's naturally good at these particular things. Look at that rescue he did with the bus. He doesn't push the bus so hard that it goes flying. Okay, he doesn't throw anybody back onto the land so that they die. No, he does everything just in a manner necessary to save everyone. So it's not a particular problem. Okay, there's no difference with the rest of the film except that they decided to give way to disaster porn. Yeah, and the fact that the writing just wasn't cohesive and they couldn't keep with their own theme. Unfortunate, but true. Well, that's Man of Steel. Like it or love it, I suppose. Anyway, that's me from the Fortress of Solitude. We will see you back here next time. Until then, well, until then.